Reuters broke a disturbing but not totally unexpected piece of news early this morning that Russian state-backed hackers are back at it, targeting a strategy and communications firm that advises Joe Biden's campaign. Microsoft alerted the firm about the attacks and identified the suspecting hacking group as the same set of spies blamed by the U.S. government for breaking into Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2016. Remember, back in 2016, that was one of two major Russian hacks in the last presidential election. There was the breach of the Democratic National Committee servers, and then there was the Clinton campaign hack, which only took one successful phishing email to get into the campaign manager John Podesta's inbox. In a blog post today, Microsoft released some information about the recent cyber attacks they've detected, revealing that in addition to Russian-based attacks, they've observed a Chinese group attacking high-profile individuals associated with the election, including people associated with the Biden campaign and prominent leaders in the international affairs community. Joining me now is one of the reporters who broke that story, Joel Schechtman, investigative reporter on espionage, cyber, and corruption at Reuters. Joel, great to have you on. This was sort of eyebrow raising. It's not surprising because we've had intelligence briefings that this kind of thing is probably happening. I guess the question here is, there's lots of attempts at intrusion of every computer system, in the country, right? I mean, if you ask for if you look at NBC's computer system, right? They're getting intrusion attacks that are repelling all the time. How routine is this and how concerted is it and how much do we know?
So, yeah, it's a great question. And I think that, one thing that makes reporting on cyber so difficult is that the margin between something that's really serious and something that's happens literally every day, every moment of the day, it can be really, really hard to tease apart. And so when I work on stories like this, I do try to set the bar, quite high for what it is that we're interested in looking at, what we want to report on. In this case, though, it's not that we were looking at, what we learned was that we weren't looking at an attempted attack by some Russian guys or attempted hack by some cyber criminals. We found specifically that these attempted intrusions on this Biden campaign firm were being done by Russian government-backed hackers. We also specifically found that this group had been identified by Microsoft as being the group Fancy Bear, which you may remember that group from 2016. They were the Russian intelligence backed hacking group that hacked into the DNC, later leaked emails about Hillary Clinton and about the campaign and about machinations within the DNC that were later used to try to, pit different parts of the party against itself and with hope, I think, of suppressing the vote. So what we were seeing here, I don't think you could in any way think about it as being something routine. It really does look like a state level intrusion attempt. What we don't know is, we've been told that the firm believes that the intrusion attempts were not successful. From covering this stuff for a while, it can be very hard to know, when data does get out, and moreover, when you're talking about a state-backed campaign, it's not like they just get one try.
Right.
When you're talking about a persistent threat, you're talking about, they'll throw whatever they can at you for as long as they need to do it.
So in the case here, Microsoft put out a statement today, and there's sort of broader targets here, right? So we know this is happening, and they also talked about other state-backed, apparatuses, China and Iran. And it occurred to me, I wonder how much the software company like Microsoft and others, or Google in the case of Gmail, how much more prepared are they in 2020 and 2016 as a kind of first-line defense against this kind of thing 4 years later after it's already happened once so catastrophically?
That's a great question, Chris. And I think that you hit on a really important point. I think that these firms actually really see themselves as being the frontline defenders. I think they really see themselves as maybe, in some cases being the only defenders that can reasonably, even if we had a government that did everything we wanted them to do in this space, the attack surface is just so huge. I mean, it's every computer in the world in a way, right? And I think that these companies looked at what happened in 2016 and looked at areas in which they fell short, and they really had a lot of time to do research into looking at how these state-backed hacking groups operate. And it's become almost like a cottage industry within these cyber firms, within companies like Google and Microsoft, hiring people whose only expertise is understanding the ways that state-run hacking groups operate. And they hire people, former intelligence people, and they've really spent a lot of time mapping that out. And I do think there's been a ton of learning on that front.
Yeah, I think that's hopeful. The statement being put out and the degree to which it's being detected, at least for me, seemed hopeful. The problem, as you said, the surface area is so large when you think about a campaign, all the people associated with it and all the inboxes and all the spear phishing you can do. I mean, that was sort of what struck me the last time around, and it's the problem this time around as well. Joe Sheckman, who's been doing reporting on this for Reuters and broke that story today. Thank you for your time.
Great to be here.